Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. So, bondage, the form of bondage that we experience in relationships is attachment, which is love plus selfishness. So love we touched on last time. We can think of love as unity, being at one with. Selfishness is to put your own ego's demands first and to not take into consideration the effect on others. And so there is a sense of being in communion and love with another person's qualities. The selfishness comes in a range of different forms, but we can think of it as, I want those qualities for myself. When someone clutches at you and drags at you, whether it's physically or emotionally, we feel constrained. We feel that we're being exactly that, constrained and pulled on, and our tendency is to pull away. It doesn't feel like love to the recipient of that attachment. It feels like a demand. It feels like expectation. And so one of the ways we can think of how this bondage works is that we lose freedom. And although we may think we are constraining the other person, we are constraining our own freedom. If I tie myself to the table, I can't move away. And if the table moves, if someone comes and takes the table away, I have to go with it. I'm not in control of my own movements. I don't have freedom of movement. So too psychologically. If I attach myself to somebody, I've handed the reins of control of my emotional state to them. And then when they give me what I expect, I'm happy. And when they don't give me what I expect, I'm unhappy. The control is outside of myself. And if that person is malevolent, then they can use that to manipulate me, to make me do things that satisfy them, even if I don't want to, because I know if I don't do what they ask, I'll be left. So love becomes attachment when it is infected, if you like, or polluted with that thought that springs from the ego. And he gives a beautiful example here of the opposite of that. He says, let your love rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. The shores are stable, stationary. They stay apart from each other. And yet the shores are connected. They're connected by that body of water. And anything on one shore can make its way to the other. So the thoughts on the shore of my soul, the emotions standing on the shore of my soul can make their way to you. How do they get there? They cross over the ocean of love. And now my thoughts become yours. My emotions become yours. There is a transaction. But it's not a bondage. It's a moving sea. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. This idea of filling each other's cup. If we go back to the idea of a single two-person system, what we have now is the ability for each one of us to help regulate the other's nervous system, to help regulate their emotions. You think about this with any relationship that you have. You're feeling anxious or upset because of something going on in your life. You go to your friend, you talk about it, you offload. A problem shared is a problem halved. Just the very fact of being listened to is often enough to lift a great deal of the anxiety. So what's happened? You have regulated your nervous system, you have regulated your emotions by using another person. This is the contract that we make. I will regulate your nervous system, your emotions, and you will regulate mine. I bring you back to balance. You give me energy, you give me peace. We are filling each other's cup. And now I have a full cup, and you have a full cup. And I can sip or gulp as I see fit, and so can you. If we only have one cup, then there is a tendency for us to want to both grab the same cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. So you have someone constantly filling your cup, filling your plate. And you are doing the same. And so you have a full meal in front of you at all times. And you can eat it whenever you wish. So it's a very powerful, very deep way of sharing, and at the same time retaining something nourishing of your own for yourself. So you're helping to regenerate the other person's resources, filling their cup. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. So this follows on from this idea of filling each other's cup, being alone. Solitude is a necessary part of our emotional, psychological, spiritual well-being. Not just the capacity to be alone, but the nourishment that comes from being alone. Think about someone whom you love. You like being in their presence. You get something from being in their presence. Solitude you can think of as being with yourself. It's not so much the case of being away from others. It's not that there is a rejection or a resistance to being with another. It's rather the attraction of just being with yourself. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. So the idea here is that solitude sets you up for being able to enjoy company. It is the space between contact that creates the contact. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. What does this mean? As you are absent from someone, your fondness is growing. You are building something up. You're generating fuel, as it were. And then what happens when you come together? The fuel is ignited. And the joy that has been built up through distance, through space, is now experienced. Sing and dance together and be joyous. How will you get joy from being with someone? By being apart. And when that joy is, if you like, burnt up, then once again you retreat. And there is space and you rebuild it. I touched on Rainer Maria Rilke earlier on. There's a beautiful line in his Letters to a Young Poet. I hold this to be the highest task of a bond between two people, that each should stand guard over the solitude of the other. So what's your role as a marriage partner? Is to stand guard over your spouse's solitude. So standing guard over something, you stand back, you protect it. How do you protect another person's solitude? Well, by not intruding on it. Well, it simply means that you understand that that other person is nourishing themselves in their solitude, just as I am nourishing myself in mine. When you recognize that this is your role, then that whole notion of attachment starts to be undermined. Attachment doesn't stand guard over another person's solitude. Attachment wants to grab and grasp and hold on to. When you appreciate the idea that my job is to stand guard over my partner's solitude, then your own attachment, your own possessiveness, your own desire to commune with their qualities is just put on hold in a healthy, unsuppressed way. It's just turned down a little bit. You gain some patience. And there's a beautiful line here. He says, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. So even though you are alone, physically distanced from each other, there's no contact, communication between the two of you perhaps, you are still resonating with a particular frequency. When you are in a safe, loving relationship, you're never apart from that person. They have gone off to the Himalayan jungle for 3 weeks to go searching for swamis. No telephone, no letters, no physical contact, no voicemails. But are you really apart? In one sense, yes. But in another sense, no, you're not apart. The other person echoes in your memory, and you echo in theirs. So this idea of the strings of a lute, if you've ever seen this, or if you've ever played a musical instrument that has strings on it, you pluck one string, and the strings that are tuned to the same note will start to also resonate. Resonance frequency. For the physicists among you, it's a beautiful quality. And so this is what's happening. You are one string on the lute, your partner is the other string. You're both resonating at the same frequency, even though you are separate.